Have you ever had a virus where you wake up and puke every 15 minutes? Well, I did, but it gave me some time to work on this video. Alright, we're going to take you all the way back in time to the year of 2022. A young Nicky G was penning his first YouTube script. The world was a different place back then. I was filled with wonder and joy. I was optimistic, starry-eyed, and bright. I was excited about my newish Runo Stromkirk deck. Mechanically, it was pretty unique, it was flavorful, it was a lot of fun to pilot. Then came the YouTube hate comments. Your voice sounds like an idiot, dude. You say dude too much, brother. You're a dumb fart. Well, old Nicky G got real cynical. He forgot what made him want to be on YouTube in the first place. And that's women and money. I'm just kidding. I mean, creating fun decks around interesting commanders. Hey, listen, if you like the channel, subscribe to it, brother. That's it. That's the move. So why should you try Runo Stromkirk? Let's read the card. It's 1 blue and a black for a legendary creature, vampire cleric. It's a 1/4 with flying. When he enters the battlefield, put up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card. If a creature card with mana value 6 or greater is revealed this way, transform Runo Stromkirk. And he transforms into Krothus, Lord of the Deep. So this guy is a 3/5 flying horror. When Krothus, Lord of the Deep, attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. If that creature is a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent, create 2 of those tokens instead. Now, I know what you're thinking. You take a look at this card and you immediately dismiss it. Nicky G, listen, I don't want to build Krakens and Serpents and Octopuses and Sea Monsters and all that nonsense. Yes, you do, but really you don't have to. Imagine if you just cut out that second part of the ability. Imagine if it just said whenever Krothus, Lord of the Deep attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. That's still a pretty bonkers commander. So why should you try Runo Stromkirk? Well, first of all, there are a bunch of art treatments to suit every taste. Now, this is the standard version. Here we see a flying homeless Keith Richards looking just crazed and dazed. Krothus on the back is an awesome spiky Cthulhu monster, and it's raining outside. It's evocative and looks like a menacing Kraken horror. Then you have Showcase version number 1, in which Runo is depicted not as an unhoused Willem Dafoe, but as instead an anime vampire straight out of the Twilight series, brother. The artist spent an ungodly amount of time on the abdominal muscles, and so much time that they didn't have time to illustrate Runo's nips. Krothus on the back is probably my favorite version, with a ship in the foreground for scale. Makes him look really huge like old Nicky G. Then we have the other Showcase version. Runo's like a sea wizard. He's got an orb, dude. He's got some tentacles for fashion. I like this version. And Krothus on the back is looking big, mean, and nasty. I don't think Runo really transforms into this guy. I think it's like that he gets summoned from the deep. That's another reason to play this guy. You get to summon the backside of the card from the deep, I guess. Alright, that brings us to reason number 2. You should try Runo Stromkirk. You get to synergize 4 different creature types. You get to pick the best out of each one. Octopus creatures. You have the Sea Dasher out there. Mutate is great when you're making copies. This card is so fun. I have it in a bunch of decks. Oh, and how about some Krakens here? We're going to release the Kraken with Donald Trump's attorney. Storm Surge Kraken got a reprint down to about $2. Gyruda, Doom of Depths is fun because you never know what you're going to get. If you make 2 copies of this, they die to state-based actions, but their abilities still go on the stack. Spawning Kraken is a must, probably the most expensive card in the set. Whenever a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent you control deals combat damage to a player, create a 9/9 blue Kraken creature token. Your commander has flying, and this is a win condition. Use your graveyard tutors to get this right in the graveyard, then into your hand. Hullbreaker Horror, this is the best Kraken. Control the board, bounce stuff with cheap spells. If you manage to copy this, you'll be getting multiple triggers and you'll lose multiple friends. Scourge of Fleets used to call me Scourge of the Sheets. Fantastic control element that you'll be gaining value off every turn it sticks around. Another Kraken that can lock down the board. Then you got a couple Serpents in there. You got the Serpent of Yawning Depths. This is the man, dude. Look at this skinny legend out there. Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents you control can't be blocked except by Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. Looks a little bit like Ron Perlman there, brother. And lastly, you have some sweet Leviathans like the old Stormtide Leviathan out there. This can frustrate your opponent's combat strategies and blast in for big damage. Looks like a big old catfish, and I like it. Now, reason number 3 is you get to use the best, most metal, and most aesthetically pleasing card in all of Magic the Gathering, the Scion of Darkness. 5 black for a creature, avatar. It's a 6/6 with trample. Whenever this guy deals combat damage to a player, you may put target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Has cycling for 3, you can put this guy right in the graveyard. You want some of these creatures that put themselves in the graveyard, right? This guy has the exact body shape as our humble host, Nikki G. This guy has Nips, A+ card. Great reanimator target, though the old Scion has probably been pushed a little out of the format through the years. This guy hits 2 criterion for this deck: getting himself in the graveyard, which is what we want to do, and having an impactful triggered ability. And we have a couple other big creatures that drop themselves in the graveyard, like the Waker of Waves here, which has this weird discard ability. It's pretty unique, and creatures your opponents control get -1, -0. Discard Waker of Waves, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Love this card, man. And reason number 4 that you should try Runo Stromkirk, as foreshadowed by Scion of Darkness, you get to get the extra triggers off of combat damage abilities like the old Lord of the Void here. 4 black for a creature demon, it's a 7/7 with flying. Whenever this guy deals combat damage to a player, exile the top 7 cards of that player's library, then put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield under your control. Imagine 2 triggers of this bad demon. And reason number 5 is you get to stack up ETB effects like our old friend the Massacre Worm. 3 black for a creature Phyrexian Worm, it's a 6/5. When this guy enters the battlefield, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 until end of turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, that player loses 2 life. Get a couple of copies of this guy out there and then clear the board of your opponent's weenies and you're having a great time. It's also a pretty good deck for the old Dream Eater dude. 4 blue for a creature Nightmare Sphinx, it's a 4/3 with flash and flying. Last night I was dream eating some goldfish. Whenever this thing enters the battlefield, surveil 4. When you do, you may return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. Getting things into your graveyard is paramount in a Runo Stromkirk deck, because when Runo Stromkirk enters the battlefield, put up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library, and that's how you flip them. But what if we get a bunch of big fat creatures in the graveyard? Well, that brings us to reason number 6 to fall in love with Runo Stromkirk. And that's a Reanimator, dude. We can cheat all these little nasty little monsters into play with Reanimator effects. In addition to Reanimate and Animate Dead, we can use some sweet little creatures like the Obsessive Stitcher. So this is 1 blue and a black for a creature human wizard, it's a 0/3. Tap, draw a card, discard a card, love that, a little looting action right there. 2 blue and a black and tap, sacrifice it, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. No one is as dedicated to perfection as a Stitcher working on their latest masterpiece. This hits 2 pillars of a Runo deck: looting, drawing, and putting cards into the graveyard, and being just a sweet reanimation effect. Looters just by themselves are fantastic, and if Crothus is copying a Looter core or something, you get double evasive looting, and that feels nice. And reason number 7 to try a Runo Stromkirk deck is the easily accessible top deck manipulation in these colors. Cards like Brainstorm let us dig and plop things on top of the library for Runo to reveal and flip, dude. I think it's a perfect deck for Varikoth, the Bloodsky Sire. So this guy's 2 and a black for a legendary creature, Demon Rogue, it's a 2/3 with Death Touch. Has Boast, 1 and a black. Target player searches their library for a card, shuffles, put that card on top. This card is a little bit clunky, dude, but it can get whatever you need on top of the library. I'm a fan of this guy because it's got super metal art and is a Death Touch Demon Vampiric Tutor. And if all that wasn't enough for you, here's a bonus reason number 8. You get to keep the copies you've made with Crothus. This is a very unique effect. Most cards like this require you to sacrifice the tokens at the end step or the end of combat. This lets you stack beneficial triggered abilities like the Sire of Stagnation. One of my favorite cards. 4 blue and a black for a creature, Eldrazi, it's a 5/7 with Devoid. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library and you draw 2 cards. This card infuriates every person I've ever played it against, so I suppose having 2 is probably a good thing. Anyways, man, this is the deck that got me started on YouTube. I thought it was so fun that I'd have to share it with the world, brother. So check out the Moxfield link, it's in the description. The deck itself is bonkers. It's only about $150. You can tailor it with your favorite cards. It really just needs some big monsters, probably the best of the sea monsters, and those are the most expensive cards. But it's got great ratios of big creatures, looting effects, and ways to get stuff in and out of the graveyard. Reason number 9 is that Runo is fun, and that's the best reason of all, brothers, sisters, and uncles. This is Nikki G from Better Commander, signing off.